Israel and the US have taken the steps that, in my mind, should have been taken a long time ago. I hope that the so-called supreme leader of the Iranian regime has indeed been eliminated. The head of the IRGC has been eliminated. The Iranian people may have reason for the first time in a long time to actually take a deep breath and say, now it is there for the taking. Now we can actually take to the streets and reclaim our country.
Our first guest for today, I want to bring naturally somebody that I'm sure many of you know, Jonathan Conricus, a former commander in the IDF, who today is a senior fellow with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. That is so appropriate at the moment because this war is in the defense of democracies. And many of you also know him as a former international press spokesperson for the IDF, for the Israel military. Jonathan, thank you for joining us. And as I said, you're part of that organization, and that's what we're in the midst of right now.
Yes, Danny, happy to be on here on JNS. And yes, the FDD is an organization that for the last 20 years has been trying to get actually this to happen, to bring down the horrible, oppressive, violent, and belligerent Iranian regime that has been wreaking havoc in the region for so long, that has been oppressing the Iranian people, that has been funding and arming the enemies of Israel, of the US, and of the free world. And finally, we can see that Israel and the US have taken the steps that, in my mind, should have been taken a long time ago, and have turned the tables on the Iranian regime and are now applying the pressure on the Iranian regime. I am hopeful that what we are watching are historic moments in the history of the Middle East. I hope that the so-called supreme leader of the Iranian regime has indeed been eliminated. It is still unclear. We do not have confirmation, but we have initial positive indications, but not yet confirmed. And so far, the Israeli and American air forces have been able to cooperate exceedingly well to strike a variety of targets across Iran. They have been able to quite effectively suppress the Iranian capacity to fire missiles at Israel. And I say that because up until now, we are almost 12 hours after the fighting has started, and the Iranians haven't yet been able to fire the massive amount of missiles that we anticipated that they would. And the BDA coming out of Iran is quite positive. We understand that the head of the IRGC, a general by the name of Pakpour, has been eliminated. So has the Iranian Minister of Defense. There will be official reports on this coming out, but the initial BDA is positive. And, the Iranian people may have reason for the first time in a long time to actually take a deep breath and say, now it is there for the taking. Now we can actually take to the streets and reclaim our country. If and when they do, that'll be a massively positive development for the region and for Israel and for the US.
It's amazing. I also understand that among those who were targeted was the former Ahmadinejad, the former head of the Prime Minister of Iran or President of Iran, and anybody who could take over, anybody who they believe that among the Iranian Islamist regime, anybody who is a possible that could take over for KHAMENEI. Apparently, they were targeted. We still don't know if it's confirmed that they are, we've been able to take them out, but it's clear that we're taking out anything that could be the continuation of this regime.
Yeah, that's exactly so. And this is, the plan here, the Operation Roaring Lion or Epic Fury. It's a result of months, one would say years of intel work, but definitely months and weeks of preparation, of simulations, of training and preparation done jointly, the US and Israel. And the results so far, they look positive. And you can say that the intel here has been quite correct. It's, of course, difficult because the Iranian regime knew this was in the making, so it took defensive steps in order to protect itself and to ensure continuity of the regime. We know that the supreme leader, based on media reports, had contingencies in place who he would nominate as caretaker. But, then there's the symbolism. For the Iranian regime to have the so-called supreme leader eliminated, that is a tremendous blow to prestige, to esprit de corps, to the fighting spirit, and to the cohesion of all of the oppressive forces of the regime. And it will be very significant tailwind for the Iranian people, because if that symbol has indeed been eliminated, then that means that the regime will be in disarray. And, now the pressure is on the Iranian regime. They need to prove in a live public statement, not something recorded from weeks ago, but really in a live appearance by the so-called supreme leader, that he is indeed alive. Anything less than that, I'm not entirely sure that it will be convincing enough to, keep things at bay inside Iran.
There have been attacks against the region, not only against Israel, against the Arab countries around. What they're saying in Israel is this is an indication that the Iranian regime is hysteric and is trying in every way to break down the alliance and bring other elements in there, hoping that they will stop this. But this is very much of an indication of what has happened to them at the moment. And this is what we can understand, that they are probably not only in dismay, but falling apart.
Yeah, I think it's too early to say that they would be falling apart, but I think it's definitely a surprise that the Iranian regime opted to attack different Arab countries in the region so quickly. We've seen strikes, Iranian missiles hit in Kuwait, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, and that is surprising, because that's something that we thought would be reserved for more advanced stages of the fighting. And I agree that it insinuates or lends to the conclusion that they are indeed panicking. I'm not sure how, they obviously think, the Iranians, that by firing at these Arab countries that will apply pressure on the US. I'm not sure that's going to work. And it may even, generate a response by the Saudis and the Emiratis. Both of those countries have capable air forces, at least in terms of tech. We don't know in terms of the skills of the pilot and the leadership and intel, but they'll have the ability to strike back. And if the Iranians fire missiles at these countries, then of course they should anticipate that there will be some kind of a response. But early stages, surprised that the Iranians have not been able to fire more missiles at Israel, and I'm of course very thankful for that. B, that they so early opted to fire missiles at Arab countries, and C, that they have not yet, at least so far as what we know, been able to cause any damage or closure to the Strait of Hormuz, the traffic there. We know that that is an important strategic choke point. We know that the Iranians have plans to do it, but we also know that the US and Israel have focused a lot of resources and assets in order to mitigate that threat. So far, a lot of challenges for the Iranian regime, a lot of real good achievements for Israel and the US and the free world.
I don't want to jump too much into the future, but we know the goal of all this is to have regime change in Iran, and hopefully Iran will go on a positive direction. In your foundation, as you mentioned, you were working on this, defense of democracies. Do you anticipate, from what you've been involved with up until now, do we expect Iran to go into a positive, I would say, Western direction?
Yeah, so we at the FDD, we have a number of Iranian specialists, real Iranians who speak Farsi and who grew up in Iran, who know the society very well. And I would say, based on what I've heard these experts speak about, I think the chances of this specific regime making that kind of move, the likelihood is very low. I think the bottom line here is that, this is a regime that will fight for its very existence until it cannot fight anymore, even if it means bad things for Iran as a nation. And then once it is defeated, the regime, then the Iranian people will be able to take back control of their country and then find a type of governance that suits them, that suits their culture, that suits their values, and that promotes their interests of the Iranian people better. Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi is, of course, a person that has been mentioned many times as in his words, transitional leader that will be able to transition from the current situation to elections and democracy. We'll have to see what the Iranian people will decide and eventually do. But I would say that most, if not all, options are better than having this murderous, belligerent, terror-supporting regime that we've had in Iran for the last 47 years.
Absolutely. I agree with you totally on that. And I love the way you framed it as things that a country will go in the direction of its values. Sometimes the people in the West forget that not everybody shares those values. But talking about the West, and you have you're very much on international media. Are you feeling a certain direction from different countries? Are they supportive of what is happening? I understand that the Prime Minister of Spain has already criticized Israel and the United States. What are we getting from the Western world in response to what is happening?
Yeah, I mean, Spanish response wasn't surprising because they're on the wrong side of history on almost every important topic when it comes to, Palestinians and Hamas, Israel, when it comes to NATO supplies and defense budget. The Spaniards have been, the Spanish government has really been on the wrong side, and he continues to, make those kinds of statements. But other democracies have shown a little bit more leadership and courage. France, the UK, and Germany issued a statement that I would have wanted to see a stronger one, but basically saying that they aren't involved but support, and that they want to see freedom for the Iranian people, and that the Iranian regime won't have nuclear weapons. Okay, one would have wanted, a little bit stronger leadership position and a bit more bravery and determination from the Europeans, but I guess we have to understand the limitations of their leaders and their ability to actually stand for something. We've seen Australia align itself and say that it supports the quest of the Iranian people for freedom, which is code for we are against the regime, and that's positive. And we've seen Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, and even Qatar, criticize Iran for their acts of aggression against it. And very importantly, of course, to be anticipated that Russia is criticizing, but most importantly, neither Russia nor China are doing anything about it, which is something, of course, that we should be grateful for and hope will remain that situation. We do not want this to become global in the sense of China or Russia getting involved in order to help part of their axis, Iran. Doesn't seem as if Russia is interested or capable of doing so. And I hope that there's some kind of behind-the-scenes deal between the US and China to supply China with cheap oil in lieu of the oil that it has been buying from Iran. And by doing so, making sure that China opts to stay out of the fighting.
Colonel in Reserves, Jonathan Conricus, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, former spokesman, international spokesperson for the IDF. Thank you for joining us here. I see
Thank you, Danny.
We're about 10 to 15 minutes, and there hasn't been a siren in your area, so we picked you up at the perfect time. So thank you.
Well, now the siren's blaring.
Now it's blaring. So we're finished right on time. Thank you for being with us and sharing your knowledge with our viewers and listeners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Keep up the excellent work at JNS.
Thank you.
You.